Tonight, here it comes, a tsunami, one of a series of monster waves and earthquakes that swept across southern Asia without warning, killing tens of thousands. We'll give you the latest on the incredible destruction, stories of miraculous survival, and give you the inside story of how tsunamis happen. Also tonight, a new message from Osama bin Laden as he and his followers aim to disrupt the Iraqi elections, and the holiday from hell for air travelers. We'll tell you why this could be a sign of things to come.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. It's Tuesday in Asia, a new day dawning over scenes of growing tragedy, the likes of which the world has rarely seen. The toll from the tsunamis, huge earthquake-driven waves that blasted across the seas, is rising rapidly. Well over 23,000 people are said to be dead, with many thousands more still missing. The rolling disaster started with a massive magnitude 9 undersea earthquake off Indonesia, triggering monstrous walls of water. Sri Lanka, the island nation off the coast of India, took the deadliest hit, at least 12,000 killed there. Thousands more died in India, Thailand, and Indonesia. Whole villages were wiped out in Somalia, 3,000 miles away in Africa. Millions of people in Asia were left homeless. At least 8 Americans died, and hundreds are unaccounted for. The United Nations says this could be the most expensive natural disaster in history. CBS's Barry Peterson is in Thailand tonight and begins your coverage.
It is now almost 2 days since the tidal waves swept across South Asia. 2 days of horror and grief, and more bodies being found by the hour.
Get inside, come on guys.
It came without warning, this home video capturing one tidal wave as it roared ashore. Those caught unawares had to scramble to safety, people running for their lives from the relentless roaring wall of water. Some of the waves struck more than 1,200 miles from the earthquake that triggered them. Those who didn't react fast enough did not survive. Those who did survive know how lucky they are.
My leg injured, my arm, missing a tooth. So there are people down there a lot worse off than me.
Oh my God! Across thousands of miles of coastline, these were the constantly repeated scenes. The sheer force of the huge waves trashed buildings and trees, flipped and rolled cars and trucks like so many pieces of driftwood, and left towns and villages with main streets that look more like trash dumps. In some places, the cleanup has begun, but no one knows how long it will take or has a clue how many millions or billions of dollars it will cost. But even more horrific, almost impossible to comprehend, is the sheer size of the human tragedy. No one can even guess the numbers of dead. Everywhere there are broken lives, of fathers or mothers or children lost in an instant to a disaster that struck on a quiet Sunday morning, when so many were out and about, some working, some just enjoying the tranquility of sitting on a soothing beach. In an eerie echo of 9/11, posters went up in some areas with photos of loved ones. The message the same: call, please, if you have seen this person somewhere alive. Everywhere where survivors were found, there were desperate efforts to save lives. But often the number of dead simply overwhelmed the ability of the living to cope. So many bodies, there was simply no place to put them. And authorities are still not sure they have reached the most remote areas where help could be needed the most.
There are now concerns because there are simply so many dead. These bodies have to be recovered from the debris. Those that are floating, people who are washed out to sea, have to be collected and properly buried. Otherwise, there is a threat that there could be even more problems, this time with disease. Dan?
Barry, about the disease, how big of a threat is it?
Well, it seems difficult to believe this, Dan, but it is huge. And the UN says it could be worse than the original event. That's because with so many corpses lying about, not buried properly, you run the risk of all kinds of diseases. Malaria, diarrhea, you have airborne respiratory problems. You get the water supply that can be contaminated, and then you spread the disease even further. So the UN is very concerned that something must be done and done quickly. or the situation will get even more out of hand.
Well, as for the devastation itself, how widespread is the devastation there in Phuket?
You know, it's very strange. In some places, it's very bad. Things have been wiped out, the roads are destroyed, and you go a mile or two down the road and nothing happened. These waves came with total serendipity. Some people are still in shock over what happened, obviously, but there's also a sense here that they have it back under control. They've cleared the mud, they've cleared the debris, and now they're really going to focus on the rebuilding and getting this place back up and running again.
The veteran CBS News correspondent Barry Peterson in Phuket, Thailand. Thanks, Barry. With jet travel and home video, people who lived through this natural disaster have brought back some horrifying pictures and harrowing tales of escape. CBS's Mark Phillips has the survivor stories.
The lucky ones began straggling home today, some carrying a video record of the horror they had somehow survived.
I think everybody, first of all, was just thinking, oh, look how exciting, there's a big wave, you know, there's a wave that's coming up. And then when
Debbie Bateson reached for her camera as the second wave rolled in toward her hotel, and the excitement turned to terror.
And there was just furniture and people running, screaming, and literally for their lives, just shattering of glass. The power, which was just absolutely terrifying. So we were on the top floor. We were very, very, very lucky. There were people in the bedrooms. They were getting blasted out the doors.
Those who were on the lower floors miraculously survived the full force of the deluge.
See one big wave coming, I try and close the door, and it just slams me back. And the rest, I don't know. I'm dragged out to like a couple kilometers inland or something. It just kept going.
Dead bodies around, dead dogs all over the road. My brother's in Uluwatuna, which is like really badly hit. The whole place is wiped out. Really lucky to live. Just holding onto a pole with that much air in the room. So pretty lucky.
The wave then came right the way through, taking the bed, the television, side tables, and what knows what. And that was it. Then we all clambered up to high ground, and all the lower ground rooms were all devastated. So that was it. It's a thing to be forgotten.
But this was a vacation that few will forget.
And all we heard was this mighty bang, and the next thing the place was flooding. It was up to there.
All of a sudden it was full of water, the whole room. Then it broke the door, and all the furniture went against the door, so the door was jammed, and we were trapped, and I thought I'd get drowned,
Those who managed to get out are doubly lucky. Other survivors wandered through the chaos or were being treated in makeshift hospitals.
too many people died.
And all had the same common thoughts.
Very relieved, very upset and happy, and we just want to go home.
Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
The government of the people of the United States announced today it is sending relief teams to Asia, and for starters, $15 million in disaster aid. Part of one of the biggest global relief efforts ever mounted to bring food, water, medicine, and shelter to millions of victims. Later in this broadcast, we'll give you the inside story on how a tsunami happens and the question, could it happen here? Also, what can be done to minimize loss of life in these kinds of situations? But right now, the Iraq story. Another suicide bombing there today killed 15 people. The attack appeared to be aimed at disrupting the upcoming elections, which is also the goal of the world's most wanted terrorist, Osama bin Laden, who put out a new message today. CBS's Kimberly Dozier reports from Baghdad.
In a new audio tape, al-Qaeda's Osama bin Laden has embraced Jordanian militant Abu Musab al-Zarqawi as his de facto leader in Iraq. Bin Laden has also called for a boycott of next month's Iraqi elections. Zarqawi's group has already been targeting anyone involved in the polls. His Sunni militant followers are among the top suspects in a deadly car bombing today, which narrowly missed killing Iraq's top Shiite candidate in next month's elections. Shiite leaders have urged their people not to respond despite continuing violence, which has been blamed on pro-Saddam Sunni militants. The target of today's attack, Sheikh Abdulaziz al-Hakim, has also reached out to minority Sunnis, urging them to choose the ballot box over the gun. But the militants keep targeting anyone involved with the polls in an attempt to prevent the election of a Shiite-dominated government. Insurgents also released video of what appears to be last week's suicide bombing at a U.S. base in Mosul, apparently trying to get more propaganda mileage out of the deadliest attack on Americans yet. The campaign of chaos is working, prompting the largest Sunni political party to pull out of the polls today. That almost guarantees that Shiites will win by a landslide, and Sunni insurgents will honestly be able to say that the new government does not represent their people. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Baghdad.
The United States and other foreign observers say Ukraine's presidential election rerun over the weekend was essentially fair. But infighting in the former Soviet republic is not over. Viktor Yushchenko, who had support from the West, claimed victory with what appears to be a comfortable margin. But his opponent, who had the backing of Moscow, is refusing to concede, and he's vowing a legal challenge to the results. Coming up next here on the CBS Evening News, this wave of destruction. How could an undersea quake cause this much damage for hundreds, even thousands of miles? We'll give you the inside story. Then later, the Christmas travel mess. Tens of thousands of Americans stranded at airports over the weekend. What happened? And by the way, it may be a sign of worse to come. We'll give you a look at why. But first, CBS News honors fallen heroes. Stuart Moore loved rock climbing and wanted to share the sport with others. He joined the Army to see the world beyond his small town. He was excited about returning to see his daughter for only the second time, but died in action before he could. Back home, a climbing tower was erected as a memorial to a man who loved life and people. No one saw it coming until it was too late, and there were no warning systems in any of the places struck. So how does a tsunami happen? What can be done to warn people in time, and could it happen here? CBS's Jerry Bowen gives you the inside story.
Sunday's devastation and rising death toll are the end result of what scientists are calling the perfect tsunami, the 9.0 earthquake that caused a nearly 700-mile stretch of seabed to shift 50 feet. A sudden jolt that displaced a massive wall of water, moving at the speed of a jetliner through the deep oceans, undetectable on the surface until it reached the shallow coastal waters and welled up into a 20-foot monster that just kept rushing inland. First in Sumatra, the island closest to the epicenter, that was moved 100 feet to the southwest, an entire island moved by the force of the quake, and then sweeping east and west across the vast Indian Ocean. 8 hours and 3,000 miles later, still moving at the speed of 375 miles an hour as it slammed into Africa, inundating the coast of Somalia. The finale of a seismic event so powerful it even disturbed the Earth's rotation.
The actual motion of the rock, it changes the mass distribution of the Earth slightly.
Sunday's quake and tsunami are the most powerful since the 1964 Alaska earthquake that killed 132 people, most of those deaths due to the tsunami that followed. That led to the creation of the West Coast Alaska Tsunami Warning Center, joining the Pacific Warning Center that was established after a 1946 tsunami claimed 159 lives in Hawaii. The stations monitor sensors around the Pacific Ocean and provide early warnings Sunday's victims never got.
We can detect any large earthquake in the Pacific usually within 2 to 3 minutes of the occurrence of the earthquake.
The centers can warn of approaching tsunamis, but they can't halt them, of course, and there are several areas of the Pacific region that are vulnerable: Hawaii, Alaska, and the Pacific North Coast.
If any of those have a very large earthquake, then a tsunami would affect those parts of California that face west, like northern and central California.
Advance warning and evacuation plans would lower the human toll here and might have lowered the numbers of Sunday's deaths by thousands, especially for those victims who had hours to flee the disaster they had no idea was coming. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Climate experts warn today that tsunamis could become more common around the world and more dangerous. They cite a number of factors, including a creeping rise in sea levels believed to come from global warming and growing populations along coastal areas. You're watching the CBS Evening News, and up next, all they wanted was to spend Christmas with loved ones. So why did tens of thousands of Americans spend the holiday at airports? Along the U.S. eastern seaboard, it's the nightmare after Christmas. A weekend nor'easter whipped up the coast, spreading sleet and ice in the Carolinas and deep snow in New England, up to 1.5 feet in some places. Thousands of homes and businesses were left in the dark as power lines snapped. And weather-related delays had tempers close to snapping at East Coast airports. But weather is not the only reason air travelers were fuming. The government is promising to investigate why so many holiday air travelers and so much luggage were delayed. CBS's Kelly Kobeya reports.
The way home never looked so long, and getting there never felt so good.
We're lucky to have landed with our lives.
Tens of thousands of travelers spent their holiday weekend stuck in terminals when 2-hour flights turned into 5-day odysseys.
Why do people have to do this? Why?
And looking for lost luggage was an act of sheer desperation.
Oh, I found it!
But unlike this winter, few found success.
Since I can't have my suitcase, I have some free deodorant, a toothbrush, shaving cream too.
How would you sum up the past few days?
They have done nothing but lie to us.
Mandy Fravel is the face of the U.S. Airways customer. After 5 days, she and her family have given up on the airline and are making the 6-hour drive home. And at last check, without their bags.
It's just been a horrible experience. I just never, ever, ever want to do this again.
Comair canceled more than 1,100 flights because its computers crashed. U.S. Airways blames its snafus on an employee's sick out. The unions deny it, but employees are far from happy. The workers have already given the bankrupt carrier a 40% pay cut, and the airline wants another 10%.
It appears they're looking at employees as being some sort of a cattle herd that they can just replace real easily. You can't do that on a chain gang, let alone a service company like an airline.
Frustrated flyers are saying forget the workers and the company. They feel like they're the cattle.
This is the only industry where you pay a lot of money for a service that you may or may not get whenever they decide to give it to you.
The weekend's chaos offers a glimpse of what might be ahead for the airline industry. The major carriers are expected to demand more pay cuts as they face yet another year of losses in the billions.
I'd tell them to go ahead and just close down. They're under bankruptcy anyways.
Losing luggage is one thing, but losing Christmas? That customers may never forgive.
The government investigation will focus on why this happened and on whether the airlines were properly prepared for a busy holiday. Department officials were on the phone with airline management Christmas Eve, but at that point all that could be done was to ask what was going wrong. Dan?
Kelly Kobeya in Philadelphia, thanks. America's online retailers are doing very well this holiday season. A report out today says internet sales are up 28% from last year. Much better than the 4.5% gain projected for brick-and-mortar stores. The wild card there is gift card sales, which are not counted till the cards are actually used. Still to come on the CBS Evening News, the president's agenda, how President Bush plans to spend his election victory capital when we kick off CBS's week-long series, The Year Ahead. With just 4 days left in 2004, the CBS Evening News is giving you a look ahead this week to what you can expect in 2005. From the war in Iraq to the battle over changing Social Security, President Bush has a lot on his agenda. CBS's John Roberts gives you a look tonight at the president's plans, popular and unpopular, and obstacles to them in the year ahead.
It was the mandate critics claimed he never had in the first term, a clear win in the Electoral College and a majority vote from the American people. And with solid control of Congress, a victory President Bush plans to capitalize on.
I earned capital in the campaign, political capital, and now I intend to spend it.
Private accounts for Social Security will be the first big agenda item, and it's going to cost the president plenty in political capital and real dollars. The price tag to start up the program could reach $2 trillion, and say experts, it will only help but not heal Social Security.
There's still too many baby boomers that are going to need too much support from too few of their kids. And I think the solution is going to have to be some painful cuts in benefits.
President Bush is also putting a down payment on tax code reform, establishing a commission to come up with ideas for next year. And he'll invest in legislation to limit lawsuits.
But none of this will come easy. Democrats insist they're not about to get rolled in the next Congress. 2 senior senators are vowing to put a microscope on White House policy, from what they call contract abuses in Iraq to the real cost of the president's Medicare prescription drug plan.
The congressional watchdog remains fast asleep, and we intend to wake it up.
With a season of head-knocking ahead in Congress, the president will seek to soothe relations in the foreign policy arena. In February, he'll launch a charm offensive in Europe, aimed at winning back allies still hostile over the Iraq war. But will Europe buy the idea of the gunslinger gone friendly?
He's not going to win them back overnight. There's going to be no kind of magic turnaround.
President Bush doesn't want to be remembered as the one who lost Iraq, so he'll need plenty of help from the world to make it work. While Mr. Bush may be loath to admit it, a second term is all about legacy. And on that front, he has set the bar very high.
Until he puts his packages out and gets some bipartisan support, it doesn't matter how badly he wants it, it may not happen.
A full plate, to be sure, and very little time to digest it all. In a short 2 years, President Bush officially becomes a lame duck. John Roberts, CBS News, the White House.
And that's part of our world. We thank you for joining us tonight and invite you back tomorrow for the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Walmart, where you can find everything you and your family need at everyday low prices. Walmart, always low prices, always.